Have you had a lifelong dream in owning your own business? Allow Stephanie Quarles at Natara Marketing to help you with all of your marketing needs. Natara specializes in modern logo design, website development, app development, social media marketing presence, and search engine optimization. Natara's team has a passion, skill set, and experience in digital services to help them guide you through your web development journey. They have happy clients as well. Owner of In-State Business Solutions, LLC, Cameron Shaw said, "Keep doing what you're doing. My experience with you and your team has been great." Contact Stephanie and Natara at 866-752-8461 or email services@nataramarketing.com. Enough looking at impressions. Let's impress the world. Frustrated with your pain? Team Rehabilitation of Kokomo, Indiana can help you find a solution. We give free injury screens. Call to schedule yours today at 765-416-6630. We're located at 613 West Lincoln Road, just west of the South End Post Office. Hello, everyone. This is JC Barnett and Travis Tafflinger. This podcast is named 1032, and it's Conversations with JC and Taf. Today is a conversation that I think many of you are going to be interested in, and the title of it is Kokomo dangerous?
Yeah.
Is Kokomo dangerous, okay? I think that's a matter of perception, that it's oftentimes we'll find that perception isn't always reality. And so we'll kind of get into some, maybe our perspective can be changed today based on some of the information that we learn. So with our warm-up, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Natara Marketing, Team Rehabilitation. We want to thank you so much for your contributions to our community. Natara Marketing, run by Stephanie Quarles, helps people pursue their business endeavors by helping them grow more with their website development as well as on their social media platforms. So she does a tremendous job with that marketing firm. Team Rehabilitation, they're helping people get back on their feet again, whether that's recovering from a surgery or some kind of ankle sprain or muscle pull. They're doing their best work on individuals every single day to get them back and going again. And Dwayne Ewing, somebody who I've known for a long time, he's a tremendous community member, and all of the folks at Team Rehabilitation are doing a wonderful job in partnership with him. So for our warm-up, Travis, we've been born and raised in Kokomo all our lives. We've lived in this community. We worked in this community. We're raising families in this community. And we have a different perspective on this city than some others may have. I think it's a beautiful place. Kokomo is a place that ever since I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to hang around this place, whether I was going to be in business, in whatever regard I was going to provide for myself and for my family. I knew that this city was going to be a place that I wanted to live and have longevity in and raise a family in. From your own personal perspective, how do you feel about Kokomo, and what's your perception of, is it a dangerous place being a small city?
Yeah, I've grown up in Kokomo, lived here for 43 years, minus 4 years in Anderson for college and a year in Chicago. So I've lived here most of my life, and I agree. I think it's one of I very, very rarely feel threatened or scared. I feel like I feel safe. I'm in all parts of Kokomo.
Yes.
I've always lived within half a mile of downtown. Besides one of my houses, I lived closer to the high school. So I'm in and around the community because of bridges. I've been in all the local schools. Because of some other non-for-profits, I've been in and around all parts of Kokomo. And yes, I do feel safe. I also believe that people's reality, needs to be respected, and people might have had something bad happen to them.
Yes.
One bad experience. I was actually robbed at gunpoint in Chicago once, and you have to think about things. I was scared to death for a long time. I actually remember praying, God, I'm tired of being scared in my own neighborhood.
Yeah.
And literally, for me, it was a pride thing. I didn't think I needed God to walk to the store and get candles for my roommate's birthday cake.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you do. And it really grew my dependence on him, that I realized who I was and what I needed. And but yes, I get to talk with so many different people. I met a guy from Los Angeles. He's on the Bridges board. He loves Kokomo. He thinks it's the greatest place ever. I'll never move back to LA. Everyone here says hi to me. Everyone here waves.
Yeah.
There's no traffic. I pinch myself every day thinking I live in a town this cool, because I'd never even heard of Kokomo a few years ago. And then I have people that maybe have lived in Kokomo for a long time that like to whine and complain of, oh, we're not this and we're not that, and that this is crummy and I can't wait to get out of here. And it's just like you mentioned, it's perspective.
Right.
A lot of it is perspective. We'll jump into some stats and different things, but I will say it is what you make it, and we'll talk about some solutions. But overall, Kokomo is not as violent as people think. The actual crime rate is going down. That's something else too. Sometimes when you don't have as many police officers, you have less crime. Doesn't mean there's less crime being committed. Means there's less crime being reported.
Yeah.
So statistics are they need to be looked at fairly too. Right. And but honestly, the murder rate in Kokomo is exactly the same as it is at Greentown and Rucherville. It's 0.05 out of 1,000 residents. So it's not very common. Now, assault is up in Kokomo compared to those other places, but robbery is actually twice as high in Greentown as it is in Kokomo. And then some of the categories are the same across the board. So Kokomo is a safe place, but you do have to be, it doesn't mean that crime doesn't happen.
Right.
It is random and can happen.
Yep. I think the closer you are to a thing sometimes, the harder it is to see the full view of it. And when you begin to back away, or if you just come into a situation, it's easier to kind of see and get a greater perspective of the overall picture, right? And so what you mentioned about your friend who moved from LA, he's able to give a different perspective on what this city and experience is like for him, because he lived in LA. I mean, that's millions of people versus between 60 and 70,000 people. And so I think that's tremendous perspective. What is a realistic and healthy fear of a place in which you live? You have to ask yourself that question. I think it's a good thing to have an awareness of your surroundings at all times. That could be anywhere. On what a person perceives to be the good side of town and what a person perceives to be the bad side of town. I'm gonna tell you what, based on what we see on TV every day, a lot of the bad or the worst things that we've seen happen historically and present day are happening in places that people did not ever see it coming.
Yeah.
And not to name any places specifically, but that's just something that I've observed myself relative to other places. With
mass shootings, 54% of them are white men, 17% black, and 8% Latino. Very, very rarely is it ever a woman. So you're right. What we see on the news, what we see in social media, what we see can sometimes become a reality, even though it might not be a true reality.
Correct. Right. Yep. Relative to other places, can you elaborate a little bit more on some of the statistics of Kokomo's violence and crime?
Yeah, and one thing that I found that was extremely encouraging, but also disheartening, is majority of the crime happens to people that they know. So whether it's a domestic abuse situation, whether it's physical or sexual abuse, in fact, with kids, 95% of the people that hurt a kid, whether it be physically or sexually, know the victim. So I think we have a lot of fear with like stranger danger or kidnappings, when in reality, those are very, very rare. Yeah. They happen, but they're extremely rare. It's the same thing with murder. Same thing with assaults. Yeah. You randomly see someone getting beat up that you did not know.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
And unfortunately, even with the murder, like a lot of the times, it's a couple, it's a fight between friends. It's crazy how many times we're known. So we're almost, if we say we're afraid, I wonder what we're afraid of. If 95% of the crime is committed by people that we know, you know, are you afraid to go to Thanksgiving?
Right.
Are you afraid to go be around a bunch of people that are armed? Because the reality is, walking downtown Kokomo is really not that dangerous. Yeah. Are there some dangerous people? Possibly. But again, it's just perspective. So as Christians and people of faith, I believe we can either be scared of the dark or we can try to illuminate the dark. Yeah. And Christ has called us to be lights. He said, don't hide under a table, but be up on the top and let your light shine. And me and my family, we have always lived close to downtown. And I remember when I got married, my wife is super tiny, and there was a rape and a murder in our alley the first year of our marriage. And did I ever feel unsafe? No, I really didn't. I knew all my neighbors. And were some of them people of crime? Yes, they were. But I knew them. I had a relationship with them, and I wasn't afraid of them because I believed that I was called to that neighborhood to bring light and be a resource and be a hopefully through Christ a beacon of hope.
Right. From a perspective of faith, I know my dad has always been a great encourager of this message here. And he says to me, son, test the spirit. And so me and you were having a conversation off camera earlier, and it was a great point that was made in reference to there are news sources out there that people, a large number of young people in the younger generations are primarily receiving their news from social media. If that's your number one source for your news, that can become an issue if you don't have the perspective of following that initial contact with a particular news break with other news sources that could be more viable news sources. This platform here, the Kokomo Lantern, I know to be a viable news source. They report it, they get it straight from the source, and there's individuals that work hard to bring you the story, shine light and illuminate the good in the community. So because I know that background from that particular news source of the Kokomo Lantern, I'm more likely to believe in that source. But I know based on where I receive some of my information from that might not be the greatest source of my news. So I have to follow it up. And that's how I kind of, put faith and reality and sync it together and put it in the proper perspective is by, in my faith walk, I am testing the spirit, and in, the secular world, if you want to call it, I am following up that initial break of the news with other sources of news as well.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother segment on bias, but it is real, and we all have them. I grew up with a bias that everyone that was south of Indiana was not as smart as us. Like the North was smart, and as you moved down, it got worse. Where we've had Rhodes Scholars from Alabama and Mississippi, people born in Kentucky, biologically are not smarter or less smart than people born in Michigan. Right. It's just geographic. But that was a bias that I had, and when it creeps into your life, it changes the way you think, it changes your perspective, and it may even change the way you act. And a lot of times you might see someone with a mental disability, or see someone that's homeless, and maybe you've seen something on a show, or you've seen something and you think, oh my goodness, this person's bad. This person's evil. And then you might see someone in a suit and think, oh man, this person's smart, this person's professional. Yeah. In reality, the person in the suit could be taking money from older ladies financially, right. And the person sleeping on the bench could be a saint, And we have to be aware of our bias, and we have to make sure that it doesn't change the way we think. And you're right, we do need to test the spirits. There are times when things are dangerous, especially when people are under the influence. Yeah. You can start to see, especially certain times of the night. Yeah. It's different walking anywhere, though. There was a stabbing in Greentown in an alley this summer. Does that mean everyone should stop riding their bikes through the alleys of Greentown? No. Just like I walk through the alleys of Kokomo, and I'm not afraid, whether I'm going to the library, the rescue mission, or the bridges.
Yep. So, I think that it's vitally important that we begin to really change our perception. It is a changing world, and it's getting easier and easier to allow our hearts to become callous and hardened to some of the things that we see. And as Christians, we try to keep a heart of flesh and soft to some of those stories that are impactful and inspire us to go and be the hands and feet of the Lord Jesus in our own personal walk and in our lives, and to make impacts in the lives of other people, and to be able to share him with them. So I think it's important from the standpoint of, where first are you receiving your knowledge of your news, and are you investigating to a greater extent what the reality of that is? And from the standpoint of if Kokomo is dangerous or not, I think we should be making every effort to go out in the community and be the difference makers ourselves, because it really starts with us. It starts with us. Helping people understand that it's a great place to live and to raise a family begins with us. We got to have conversations with people. We have to start, really just becoming what we want to see in our own society and in our own community.
Yeah, and it sounds real simple. It maybe even sound naive, but it truly is where the true growth is in relationships. Yep. And just like every good game ends with a buzzer beater, we want our podcast to end with a buzzer beater. Something for you to take away, something to do. And we just encourage you to have a conversation with someone that you don't know. Have a conversation with someone different than you. I really truly believe, and some dear friends from IUK taught us this, that relationships is the key to everything. Relationships change bias. Relationships change perspective. Relationships change empowerment and growth and development. Really, anything that we are, when we look back and peel it back, it probably has to do something with a relationship. So main focus and the thing we want to end with is go build relationships. And that might start with a conversation, but hopefully it grows and matures into a relationship to where you know your community, you know all the parts of town, to where you're not scared to go into any part of town because you have relationships in that part of town.
Yep.
So build those relationships, have those conversations, and make Kokomo a place where people think it is safe.
Yes. Yep. Hey, I think that covers it. And we appreciate you joining our conversation with JC and Taf. God bless you.